Aloha, I'm Lyla Berg, and we're here at Aloha Stadium, ready to converse with the people who inform, inspire, and impact our daily lives. Thank you for joining us on Island Focus. Here we are on the field. It's just amazing. How many seats are there?
50,000, believe it or not. You can just soak it in. You can feel, the presence of the fans when they're here.
This is meant to be multi-purpose so that it would open up.
Yes.
How would that work?
You can still actually see it on the 50-yard line. It used to split open. The bridges used to come down, and concerts, soccer events were all held in that baseball configuration. But it's amazing that those bridges used to be able to come down.
Oh, really?
So that's how they used to do it. So they used to take the bridges down. So Scott said they used to have like an elevator shaft that would lock into place, and then they would come down, and then they would store it underneath
all of these bridges here. Wow.
Then they would store it underneath the tunnel, and then that's where they did the split right here.
And the AstroTurf looks brand new.
It is. We're going into our second season this year with our new synthetic turf. So we're really excited to have all of our youth to all of our adults be on this field.
And what do you envision will happen next?
Time will tell. The Aloha Stadium is kind of our gathering place, and wherever we go from here, it's definitely going to be an exciting time.
I have the pleasure of chatting with Ross Yamasaki, who's board chair of the Stadium Authority. Thank you for hosting us in your beautiful stadium.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for having me.
As board chair, what does that mean?
I sit as the chair of a 9-member board, which is appointed by the governor, a volunteer board to help ensure the mission of the stadium and the Stadium Authority, which is to serve the community, I guess. It's something that you volunteer at, so it's something that you have to be passionate about. But I think the symbol of what Aloha Stadium is and what it was here to created for, to inspire the youth and provide a venue for a community gather is a really good one, I think.
Most of us think of football being the primary activity in the stadium, and you played football for the University of Hawaii.
A long time ago, yes.
In this stadium?
Yes, a long time ago.
It must feel very special to come back now and honor the place that gave you so many great memories.
Yes, it is, and I'm very passionate about it because I lived it. I lived next to the old stadium, and I was came to the games when the new stadium was built. Dreamed of being a Warrior, put on the uniform, got on the field, and now in a position that I can help the state and our community keep that legacy going.
So what's next for the stadium?
We're at a really interesting time for the stadium. The stadium's over 40 years old, and being a steel building in Hawaii, there's a lot of repair and maintenance. So we're recently going through some discussions to develop the stadium. And something that's really, really exciting is that there were some deed restrictions on the property that restricted the use, and now that's been lifted through a lot of hard work by many, many people. The whole site is open for development, and we can look at the stadium not as just a stadium, a facility itself, but what the stadium can represent as far as entertainment and community value.
And what you're really talking about is change.
Yes, change.
Huge change.
Big change, yes.
How are you going to navigate that?
Well, with the help from a lot of people. And the authority's been very fortunate so far that there's been a lot of partnering effort with HART and the rail, because their station is going to be here, so it's allow multimodal transportation to the site with the TOD people at the city, and they're looking at development around a rail station, which is really exciting in that sense, where a stadium could be a primary anchor for this rail station. And there's a bunch of other agencies that's been coordinating, as well as the community and the neighborhood boards, to work with a vision for the future for the stadium site.
Your career as an architect, your profession as an architect must serve you very well in your position as board chair.
Yeah, I think that was part of what I felt I could bring of value to the board, understanding that development was in the future, and understanding structures.
And design.
And design, yes.
Right? I mean, what I know to be true about architects is they're looking not just to be creative and functional, but also what feels inviting.
Yes, I think the word, we were talking before about Aloha Stadium. I think it's going to be really, really important. Whatever happens to the stadium and the stadium development, that word is more than just a word on the stadium, but something that is designed for in everything that we do as far as how it functions, how we use it.
Well, it'll be very interesting to see what it'll look like, because I remember the Pro Bowl days when, the fireworks would go off and the jets would come by. And is that still part of a new idea?
I think the market's changing with regard to sports. From what we understand from our consultants, the sports entertainment venues where there's a lot of mixed-use development around the stadium is what it's moving to. Fans don't come out as much for single games because there's so many different ways to experience. But I think there's value in, again, the Aloha Stadium, and if there's a mixed-use development and what we can do within the community, and the stadium plays an important role, yeah.
Well, thank you for giving us some thoughts to think about and some ideas about the change.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We've been chatting with Ross Yamasaki, board chair of the Stadium Authority here at Aloha Stadium. We have an interesting conversation coming up with Todd Nakapoi, who is the Chief Information Officer with the state of Hawaii. That's a mouthful for a title, but I think you've changed it recently.
Yeah, one of my first acts of what I call civil disobedience was to change my title from Chief Information Officer to Chief Innovation Officer, because that's really what the governor has asked me to do. He's asked me to come on board and help change state government by teaching them how to innovate and really using technology to drive the state forward.
Maybe you can explain a little bit about your office first.
I'm part of what we call the Office of Enterprise Technology Services, and we're responsible for basically all technology throughout the state. In our world, we're called a decentralized IT organization. So really what that means is we set policy and enterprise types approach, and the departments are responsible for implementing those types of approaches.
It must be more than challenging, I
It
think,
is.
to work with staff who are struggling even just to turn on the computer,
Right.
let alone to be aware of all the different social media facets. How are you navigating that?
We do it in a couple ways, right? We're always trying to make sure that, our employees that may not be as technology, or they may not be as up to speed with some of the technology that we're comfortable with it, that we find ways to make them, feel comfortable with it. And really, technology is just a tool. So our main principle is not to use the big stick and say, you must use this piece of technology. Really, we try to say that, look, we're giving you a new tool set. How you choose to use that tool set and how effective it can be for you to do your job every day, that's up to you. But we're introducing things like electronic signature, Office 365, a lot of different tools that enables you as the user to make your job more efficient. That's the way we get it done.
Relative to coordinating and helping people navigate the technological system of the state, that also implies social media.
Correct.
And how are you helping people learn about that and to use it more effectively?
So we have different tools that we're bringing on board as well. There's things like LinkedIn and other tools that we're using to really go out and recruit people to bring them into the state, right? So in this day and age, millennials are now the largest workforce out there. And a lot of millennials like to use those newer tools. And so we ran a pilot over the last 6 months using LinkedIn. We were able to hire 16 people using LinkedIn in a 6-month period, right? And we're able to attract people that would have never looked at the state as a way of employment. But through LinkedIn, we're able to reach a very different crowd, a very different population of people. And then it's up to us as leaders of departments to sell them about the importance of working in the state and why serving as a civil servant is so important.
Well, innovation is not only your job, but also your passion, obviously. You have some neat projects that are being implemented.
So one of the things that we're doing is a hackathon. So this was a Governor Ige's idea. He and I sat as judges on a hackathon last year, and he said, hey, this would be a great idea for the state to do. Why don't we do that? And in 3 months, we were able to pull that together, right? And so really what the hackathon is, it's a way of the state departments coming up with challenges. So what happens is each state department will issue a challenge out to a crowd. Last year we had about 300 people. We expect to have about 500 people
show up. A challenge is a problem or an issue.
A problem
or
and issue that exists in state government, right? We like to call them challenges. We don't like to call them problems, right? And so the State Department will pitch something. One of the things that were pitched last year was homelessness, right? And so the winning team developed the homeless app, which was able to identify, geolocate a person. You could take a picture, right? Identify them. A user could go out, as what they do in the point-in-time surveys is identify where that person is, identify services, all done through an app online that was developed during the hackathon.
I appreciate your enthusiasm and also your belief that some of us can really learn how to use the system. And we'll look forward to hearing a little bit more in the future about what's new in your office and new with you. Thank you for joining us. We've been chatting here at the Aloha Stadium with Todd Nakapoi, who is the Chief Innovation Officer with the state of Hawaii. Thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in to Island Focus and joining me in the conversation with Pauline Warsham. So nice to see you again.
Same here, Lyla.
You wear a lot of different hats.
Yes, I do.
And today we're talking about the Mauna Gardens Foundation.
Yes, that's correct. You know, about 20 years ago, I started my own business, and I've been fortunate over the years to have some very wonderful clients. And today I'd like to share information about Ō'ahu Gardens Foundation. You know, we've been around for 47 years, but there isn't a whole lot of awareness of what we do in the community. And what we do, I think, is so important for everybody to know about.
Specifically, what is the focus of the foundation?
Well, we were founded in 1970 by two of the granddaughters of Samuel Mills Damon. And at the time, they founded Ō'ahu Gardens Foundation to fight the H3 from going through Moanalua Valley. Because as you know, the estate of Samuel Mills Damon owned the valley. Samuel Mills inherited it from Princess Bernice Pauhe Bishop. And he kept the gardens open for the public and also helped to preserve Kamananui, or as we know it today, Moanalua Valley. So when the H3 was going to be constructed, the first route was through Moanalua Valley. And because the two sisters, Frances Patches Damon Holt and her sister Harriet Haku Damon Baldwin, felt it was important to preserve these legacy lands where there are cultural sites and historic sites, they founded Ō'ahu Gardens Foundation.
You know what I love so much about being in Hawaii and also the work that you're doing is that there's a recognition of culture and history as the contemporary needs, I guess, or the interests of society evolve. And in part, that's what the foundation does, right?
Exactly. And as you know, the two sisters were successful because the H3 ultimately went through Halawa Valley. And after that experience, the two sisters felt it was very important to continue this awareness, community awareness of teaching people how to protect and preserve our aina. And we were the pioneers, actually, in environmental education. So from that start, we segued into teaching our keiki because it was felt that they're going to be our future leaders, our future generation. It was so important for the keiki to know how to become good stewards of these lands, which, as you know, are disappearing.
And this effort culminated in a special project.
Our Partners in Education program was the first thing that we started, and it was a program that took place in 41 public schools here on Oʻahu and Molokai.
Wow.
So that was our first project to develop a formal environmental education program. But then 7 years after that, or 8 years after that, we started our cultural programming, which eventually became our annual Prince Laut Hula Festival.
Which just completed this year already.
Right. Actually, we celebrated our 40th anniversary
Wow.
at a new location at Iolani Palace. But we kept the cultural connection. And the Prince Laut Hula Festival really originated in Moanalua. And the reason for that was that after the community was divided over the H3 controversy, the estate and the sisters felt we needed a way to unite the community. So the Prince Laut Hula Festival was founded, and it has become, over the years, the largest non-competitive hula exhibition in the state, and we like to say in the entire world.
Well, it's probably definitely true, because there's no other place, as we know from Aloha Stadium, that has the aloha that we have.
Exactly. And it's 2 days of wonderful hula and a signature event now in the city. So we're really proud of where we've taken the Prince Laut Hula Festival.
Thank you so much for sharing all that information with us, and we'll look forward to hearing from you in other times about your projects.
Thank you, Lyla. It's so nice to see you again.
Yeah. We've been chatting here at Aloha Stadium with Pauline Worsham and the Moanalua Gardens Foundation. Thank you for joining us, and once again. This is a very special wall to you in particular.
Yes, very much so. We had high school kids come in and paint this mural for us.
The whole wall.
The whole wall. They didn't realize when I first had them come in, because when you see it on paper and then when you put it up, it's two totally different things. But everything these kids did was by hand. You know, they either used their spray cans or their paint brushes.
And the significance is it paints people coming together, activities that happened here.
Mm-hmm. We basically let them have a free canvas with these walls, and we wanted to pay tribute to the Honolulu Stadium because that was an important role for us to hear. So they did a little history about the Honolulu Stadium.
Termite Palace.
Our
right?
Termite Palace. They asked for permission to do that. So
Cute.
by all means, we told them to go for it. So a lot of things they picked up on these walls were just amazing what their vision was.
And their use of color expresses their understanding of what Aloha's about also.
Exactly.
The rainbow.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm conversing with Chad Blair, editor of Civil Beat, and thank you for being with us, and you as well.
Thanks, Lyla.
There's a lot of pressure in your field these days.
Oh, there sure is. And by the way, I wish I was editor of the Civil Beat. I'm actually one of the editors, and I'm fortunate that I work with a great crew that are terrific at trying to do a good job. But you're saying it's a tough job right now in journalism, and it is. We're confronting this phenomenon called fake news. And somehow that if you see it on TV or on the internet, social media, that you can say it's not true, or that you can manipulate the news, and that makes our job at Civil Beat all the more important.
It's a bit of an oxymoron, right? To say something is fake when news is truthful and real.
It is.
How do you explain this when you work with the young interns that come into Civil Beat?
They're actually smart. They're discerning. A challenge for them is they get all their information primarily online. They don't often pick up a newspaper, the print version, the magazine. And sometimes I think for some people out there, they can blur the distinction. If somehow Breitbart has a website and InfoWars has a website, but also the Washington Post and the New York Times, that somehow they're on the same level playing field, that is not true at all. But with these young people coming on board, in many ways, journalism has been revitalized by the new administration, and you see younger people coming in, smarter, frankly, than I am, really trying to change and feel idealistic. So that makes you feel good despite the fake news problem.
Did you always want to be a journalist?
No, I never did. But I was a newspaper boy. When I was in college, I actually volunteered to work on the student newspaper, led to a job. I became the editor of that newspaper. And eventually over the years, it has been the job that has been the most fulfilling for me. And I'm proud to say that I'm a journalist.
At Civil Beat, there are many different departments, and the editor in which you are,
Part of a team.
what department is that?
Well, primarily I focus on politics and opinion. So what I'm doing is writing columns. I'm helping community members contribute to their own ideas, to have a column that is a guest column so other people can share the ideas. And I still play a reporter. I still go to the occasional press conference and so forth. But it's a very big task. I think the main thing I'm trying to do is to make Hawaii a better place. That's the mission of Honolulu Civil Beat. Accountability, transparency, making sure that we're doing the right thing. And if government officials are not, it's our job to call them on that.
And what I've been impressed about with Civil Beat is also the vision of connectability or connectivity.
This is something that Piero Mitti, our publisher, the founder of eBay, who's a Hawaii resident, he and his wife and his kids live here, they feel very strongly that journalism is about community, about reaching out, and he feels that that helps bring down barriers. But that also adds a level of responsibilities. When the community expects something of you, they'll actually call you and they'll email you or they'll text you and say, hey, Chad, what about this? What about that? And you feel an obligation because they're taking you seriously. Therefore, you have to give them some of your time in addition to your day job.
Is that typical of a newspaper to
No.
be so responsive?
No, absolutely not. When I worked for Pacific Business News or Honolulu Weekly, Hawaii Public Radio, you know, you'd see people here and there and they'd write you and so forth, but nothing like now. But as a nonprofit, they're contributing to your bottom line and they expect something in return. I think actually that's a good thing. We're becoming brands. We're becoming people. We can't hide behind a paywall. We have to engage with the community.
And so along those lines, being discerning in the engagement, in the involvement, and not just in the writing, how do we teach discernment?
You got to use your brain. There's a terrible tendency today called the echo chamber, where we want to see news, hear news, receive news that simply reinforces our own biases, our own beliefs. And that's a very dangerous phenomenon. You need to depend on legitimate, respected news organizations that have accountability, that aspire to make sure that they're doing the right job, that are not expressing a political point of view one way or another ideologically. I think that the average citizen has to be a citizen and really remember that the First Amendment is part of freedom of the press. It's absolutely essential to our democracy. So as a citizen, do your job, use your brain, and question what you're seeing on the media.
And obviously that whole process you're talking about fills you with energy and passion.
Oh, can you tell that I love my job?
I can.
Absolutely the best job I've ever had. And, you know, journalism is in a tough position right now. The industry is in a lot of trouble. There are pockets where you see things are doing well. I think the nonprofit path is a good one. But every day I go into work, and it is a lot of work, but I love it, and I love being on shows like this to talk about how proud I am of Civil Beat.
And thank you for joining us and sharing that energy.
Thanks, Lyla.
We've been chatting with Chad Blair, editor of one of the departments at Civil Beat. Thank you for being with us, and thank you so much. Today on Island Focus, I have the pleasure and the honor of speaking with Miki Hui Hui, who is the Executive Director for the Hawaii People's Fund. Thank you for being here.
Mahalo for having me.
And aloha.
Aloha.
Thank you. In addition to aloha, what happens there?
The Hawaii People's Fund is a 44-year-old organization established to connect folks in the community who are doing work towards social justice with those who have the capacity to support them. Whether that's financially or physically, it gives people the opportunity to plug into grassroots efforts that are creative and passionate.
Did you grow up being involved in grassroots efforts and volunteering? And
Yes, I did. And it wasn't until I became the executive director at the People's Fund that I realized that what we were doing was indeed grassroots organizing. We did it just because we did it. I involved in a lot of Aina restoration projects and a lot of Lahui independence projects. But like I said, we did it because we did it, never really realizing that it was a social justice issue.
social justice is the foundation of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the projects that you have going on makes it more real for people.
Yes, the fund has historically been able to connect folks doing the work with those able to support them, but we're really focusing on the community engagement component of it now, where folks will have an opportunity to plug directly in to the folks who are doing the work. We have an annual granting cycle funded almost completely by the community. We're a community-based philanthropy. So mahalo nui to everyone who supports the fund. But creating avenues for folks in specific areas to plug directly into the folks that they're supporting. And not just those who are current donors, but opening it up to the larger community to get more people engaged in the grassroots works happening in their own neighborhoods, because they're everywhere.
Can you give us some examples of what these grassroots efforts might look like?
This past granting cycle, I'm wearing my Mauna Kea scarf that was given to me by Auntie Pua Case. Just recently had a meeting at Mauna Kea. This is the third time that their organization has been funded by the fund. These are folks that are taking their own initiative to educate the community and build awareness about the historical and cultural value of Mauna Kea and our precious island resources, which a lot of times are sidelined and not really considered when in the light of development and growth and progress. A lot of times these grassroots efforts to malama aina and to spread awareness are kind of sidelined.
From what I know about the Hawaii People's Fund is that there really is an effort not just to preserve and conserve and protect cultural assets, but also work in the contemporary environment so that everyone can more than coexist, so we can thrive.
Right, exactly. And Hawaii we're so unique in that we're such a small ohana here. We're 2 people away from everyone. So the capacity.
Is it 2 people?
I think it's 2. I think we're 2 people away from everyone on this island.
I thought it was like a half.
Right. So the potential for everyone in our community to plug into something that means change in their community. And growth and change and progress, sometimes those words are interchangeable. What the People's Fund specializes in particularly is moving the community-raised funds to folks who are being creative and passionate about tackling the problems in their neighborhoods. In their
Well, and all the projects you're involved with that I've experienced have a great deal of love and attention and caring for everyone involved. And so I want to thank you very much for your leadership.
Mahalo.
And for bringing that out, and for the Hawaii People's Fund.
Thank you. One thing I think is especially unique about the People's Fund and everyone involved with it, from my wonderful board and the staff and the leadership to the grassroots organizations doing the work and those who are supporting the work in the community, is this sense of service leadership that runs throughout. Everyone involved in the fund and in the programs are doing it because of love of community, and what a perfect world it would be if everyone got on board with that.
Thank you for joining us, and you are a model of service leadership. Thank you.
Mahalo, Lyla.
We've been chatting with Miki Hui, Executive Director for the Hawaii People's Fund here at Aloha Stadium. Mahalo to Aloha Stadium for hosting us, and to you for tuning in to Island Focus. I'm Lyla Berg. Aloha and malama pono. Take care of each other. See you soon.